island of Sardinia is located in the Mediterranean Sea just south of Corsica and west of the Italian peninsula. During the age of the Roman Empire, Sardinia was home to Roman colonies and governed by Roman prefects. But little is known about the history of the island before the Roman occupation. What is known is that an ancient race of megalith builders called the Nuragic civilization once inhabited Sardinia thousands of years ago. The Nuragic civilization is shrouded in mystery and legend. No one knows exactly who they were, but the ruins of their megalithic towers called Nuragi bear witness that they were mighty builders. Nuragi towers were constructed with large, uncut stones in the Cyclopean style without the use of mortar. Some of the towers were relatively small, while others were astonishingly large, rising over 100 feet into the air. There are over 7,000 ruined Nuragi towers still standing in Sardinia today. But archaeologists estimate that at one time there were more than 30,000 of them all over the island.
Everywhere you go in Sardinia, you find the ruins of the Nuragi towers and the stone rubble belonging to other megalithic constructions that once populated the landscape. Having traveled extensively all over the island, I am amazed that so little attention has been given to this place by archaeologists, considering how anomalous it is in regards to the sheer quantity of megaliths that were once present. But even more remarkable than the abundance of megaliths is the abundance of evidence pointing to the unassailable reality that Sardinia was once inhabited by a race of giants.
Originally, there were apparently 30,000 Nuragi all over the island. Now the estimation of the Nuragi is approximately 7,000 to 8,000 around Sardinia. These towers were the expression of the megalithic architecture, which is also called Cyclopean. The legends mention Cyclops who built these megalithic structures around the island. They might have been very impressive and imposing in those times, because when the Nuragi were first built, the single tower could reach even 28, 30 meters height. It was like a skyscraper of the prehistory. And Cyclopean, because of the legend, as if they were built by Cyclops or giants, but also because of the use of massive boulders, of massive stones, which were set in circles with no use of mortar binding. It must have been really hard to lift them, to move these stones, and even today, engineers wouldn't know how to build this type of constructions anymore.
The impressive stonework exhibited in the Nuragi towers is prototypic of the classical Cyclopean style. Cyclopean masonry is an archaeological term used to describe an antediluvian engineering technique which incorporated large stones without the use of mortar. Cyclopean masonry is the trademark of megalithic architecture all over the earth. The style ranges from rough-hewn stone structures as prominently displayed in the Nuragi towers of Sardinia to incomprehensibly precise edifices devised with immense polygonal blocks, perhaps best illustrated in the walls of Sacsayhuaman in Peru. No one knows exactly how the megaliths were built, because the knowledge of Cyclopean masonry vanished from the earth. But what we do know is who the ancients believed were the builders. All across the world where megaliths are present, legends of giants abound. The ancient Greeks, from whom we derive the term Cyclopean masonry, attributed megalithic building to a particular kind of giant, the Cyclops.
According to the Greeks, the Cyclopes were the one-eyed offspring of the gods who were famed as gifted craftsmen and masons. The Greeks credited the giant Cyclops with building the megalithic construction found in Greece and throughout the Mediterranean. Clans of Cyclopes were rumored to inhabit the islands of the Mediterranean. In his epic poem, The Odyssey, Homer recounts the harrowing voyage of Odysseus, king of Ithaca. During his wanderings in the Mediterranean Sea, Odysseus and his crew enter a cave on the island of the Cyclops, where they encounter Polyphemus, a savage one-eyed giant. Polyphemus devours some of Odysseus's men before they put his eye out with a spear and escape the island. In the next chapter of the story, Odysseus and his men are carried in a storm to a place called Laestrygonia, which is a land inhabited by cannibalistic giants. The giants devour many of Odysseus's crew and destroy all but one of his ships.
The Odyssey is obviously a work of fiction, not to be taken literally. But like many of the legends composed by the ancient Greeks, it may be laced with historical fact. The mystery schools and fraternities of builders throughout history have utilized the insignia of the cycloptic eye in its many motifs to communicate knowledge originating from a celestial source. The single-orbed eye, open and watching, invokes the Watchers who descended to the earth in the antediluvian age, their forbidden knowledge and their hybrid offspring. The Cyclops is the embodiment of these concepts. But was the Cyclops more than an esoteric symbol to the ancients? Was it a real flesh and blood creature? In Sardinia, many believe it was, citing the small island of Sant'Antioco in the southernmost province, known as the Island of the Cyclops.
My name is Paolo Valdes. I was born in Sant'Antioco in 1944. When I was young, I explored a lot in the mountains. And so I saw many skeletons among the ruins and the old houses in the countryside. One day, when I was 8 years old, I was grazing oxen in the mountains. There was a nuraghe nearby, so I decided to go and explore it. I went inside of the nuraghe and discovered the giant skeleton of a man partially buried in the ground. When I looked at the skull, I noticed that he had only one eye socket in the middle of his forehead. Instead of two eyes, like a normal man, he only had one. He was very large. I could see his feet sticking out of the ground. He was much larger than a regular-sized man. And this happened in the area known as the Land of the Cyclops.
Sant'Antioco lends credence to the Greek stories of Cyclopes in the Mediterranean. Not only are there ancient folkloric accounts of the Cyclops inhabiting this region of Sardinia, there are also contemporary claims that the skeletal remains of cycloptic giants were unearthed some years ago in plain view of the townspeople before being secreted away with threats of violence if anyone dared speak of it. Many of the people we spoke with in Sant'Antioco affirmed that they had heard of the incident, but were unwilling to go on camera. Some even told us that the cyclopes were exhumed right in the middle of town, where the megalithic remains of an archaeological excavation can still be seen. I had no way to confirm if these rumors were true, but what I can confirm is that highly secretive and restricted excavations are still taking place in Sant'Antioco today. We were able to film one such area where some believe that the graves of giants had been discovered and were being disentombed. Could it be that the legends of giants and cyclopes in Sardinia are true? Are their remains being exhumed in secret and then hidden away to protect the conventional narrative of history and the institutions that propagate it? The answer is self-evident for those who have seen the bones.